What is up, my guys? I'm finally back with another Pokemon video, and oh boy, is this a meaty one. I'm gonna be showing you 10 new Pokemon today, and we're gonna have a great time. I know I said weekly videos after the last Pokemon video, and that just never happened and probably won't happen, but I'm gonna be posting whenever I can, though, so don't worry about that. Anyways, without further ado, let's actually get into the video. So I had made a Notion page for all the Endormi region Pokemon I had made so far, and at the time, we had 23 Pokemon. It's become 33 now, but that's besides the point. What I noticed was the terrifying lack of normal types in the region, and the normal types that we did have wasn't even normal types. And since the next Pokemon I actually wanted to make was a bird Pokemon in the niche of Pidgey, Pidove, and other starter regional birds, I decided to make it a pure normal type. Yeah, just normal. It's a flightless bird and meet Puffbee, the starting regional bird of the Endormi region. For the animal influence, obviously I decided to go with the puffin, because I was watching a YouTube video about puffins the day before, and I don't remember a puffin Pokemon existing already, so honestly it should have been at least a water flying type or like a water type, but since we already have a water flying type, I decided not to have it. I should have used a puffin for that, but Surgic's fine. Surgic's fine. Anyways, that's the first guy, Puffbee, the puffin Pokemon. They're extremely curious Pokemon that fly around beaches, rivers, and waterfalls trying to catch fish. They crave the outside and gets agitated when in captivity unless the trainer can provide ample care and nurture to it outside the Pokeball. For the evolution of Puffbee, I decided that it would look more or less like a normal puffin, since I made the pre-evo just ahead. I feel like puffins look enough like Pokemon anyways, and I just needed to tweak it a bit more to make it look more like Pokemon, and like including making it a bit more rounded to follow consistently with the shape of Puffbee without looking like just a sized up version of the bird. Truth is, I was using this Pokemon line to shake some dust off of my Fakemon skills, so I did not want to spend a lot of time crying over the themes. Sometimes the Pokemon don't need to be extremely deep. Sometimes they can just be. And this lineup was pretty much a bit of that for me. And so finally, here is Flapuffin. Flapuffin, they hunt in swamps. Being a relatively slow Pokemon, a higher defense helps it to survive in the swamps. It prefers to eat bugs and other insects. Alright, now for the final evolution. A final evolution of Pokemon for me is my most favorite forms to draw. You can go nuts here. The job of the final evolution is to visualize the journey that you had with the pre-evolutions. What was once pretty weak through an adventurous journey has now become stronger. And this is especially true for regional birds. They start out cute and cuddly, resembling the smaller, cuter species, and then evolve into bigger birds, and sometimes the final evolutions can just be huge, like Pidgeot or Corviknight. I wanted Puffbee's final evolution to be the same way, and I didn't want to restrict myself to real birds. I decided the final evolution would look extremely cool and like dragon-like in some aspects, also strong. It needed to also resemble a puffin too, because again, I think puffins already look really cool in real life. I wanted to elevate that a bit, and so finally, here it is. Fratoraptor. They are apex predators of the skies, above mountains, and are extremely rare in the wild. This is because it evolves from Flapuffin if gotten enough nurture and care from its trainers. While going through my list of Pokemon, another lack that I noticed was a lack of starter bugs. The bugs that occupy the niche of Weedle, Wurmple, Swaddle, Caterpie, etc. I really love the starter bugs. I think they're really cool and their more realistic approach to evolution, which is just the real life phenomenon called metamorphosis, is probably my most favorite kind of evolution in Pokemon. So I needed more bugs. I already had one bug type, the result of another random prompt challenge, a bug type toilet paper elephant seal Pokemon called Semperil. When I was drawing the Pokemon, I thought it would be a good idea to have pre-evolutions for this Pokemon as a sheet of toilet paper for the first stage and a rolled up scrap paper for the cocoon stage, so I decided to do that first. Not much to say except it was a fun idea, so here's the speed paint of me quickly whipping them up and then I'll show you the whole lineup. Centoi. Their flat look helps them maintain a low profile and make predators easily ignore them. They're very weak and vulnerable Pokemon in battle. Scrantipede. Despite looking like scrapped paper, they are extremely hardy Pokemon, and the spikes on their body is poisonous. Sempereel. Sempereels may look funny, but they are vicious parasites that disguise in the form of paper rolls and are taken by humans if they find one in the wild, because we never have enough toilet paper. But the paper-like body is occupied by microscopic eggs that enter the human system when they use it and grows inside the human. Alright, next I want to show you my first regional snake Pokemon. For the design and concept, I wanted it to be kind of colorful, as if it was poisonous and not just venomous. This guy is a snake. Snakes are cool. And here's the interesting thing about this snake. It has a head shaped like a butterfly or a moth. Interesting observation, but we'll come to that in just a bit. For now, here's La Serpent. They have heads that somewhat resemble a moth and butterfly-like Pokemon for unknown reasons. They're extremely intelligent Pokemon and sometimes are even seen to communicate with humans. I wanted to add one more bug Pokemon, this time a moth, because moths are the underdog of the Flying Bug Hall of Fame. The butterflies wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the moths, and yet they get all the attention. So I wanted to base this Pokemon on the huge Atlas moth. This moth had wings that had tips that looked like the head of a snake. I hope you are putting two and two together. If you're not, you'll see in a bit. This happens a lot in nature and is called mimicry. I did start with the final level for this one, but we'll come to that. First, let's look at the larva stage and the cocoon stage. Let me just say, all will become clear anytime now. As soon as I put color on this thing, you'll see where it's going. So I'll come back when that happens. Does that look familiar? Millarva. The bright colors scare off predators, warning them of toxicity. Some observations note that they look like a bad imitation of the Pokemon La Serpent. For the cocoon stage of the Pokemon, I wanted it to mimic a special kind of Pokeball, but just a random non-existent one. It needed to use the colors from his pre-evo, but here's how it finally looks. Ilcoon. These are hardy cocoons that look like special kind of Pokeballs that nobody has seen before. Scientists find their extreme round shapes to be somewhat unusual for cocoon Pokemon. Pretty sure most of you have already put it together by now. The final evolution of this lineup would be one that would have wings shaped like La Serpent. When I was deciding what to go with, I was thinking that I could probably use an already existing snake Pokemon for the wings, but instead, I decided to make another new Pokemon out of it. Since the Endormi region was in dire need of snakes, I thought this was the perfect opportunity. Unlike the Atlas moth, these wings actually functioned like snake heads too. They're more like hands and not exactly heads in this case, and the moth controls it like how we control sock puppets. But the fangs are extremely venomous. In the future, when I finally decide to look at the balancing and abilities and things like that, I'm probably gonna make this Pokemon and the snake Pokemon La Serpent have some sort of trait that makes them weak to each other. Anyways, without further ado, here's the Pokédex entry. Serpatlas. They have wings that have tips that look like the head of La Serpents to scare off predators. They like to feed on fruits and tree trunks. Before I go to the final Pokemon for today, if you like the video, then consider subscribing or liking the video. Thank you so much. And now for the final Pokemon of the day, and probably one of my most favorites so far. Okay, so the idea of this Pokemon came after I realized that there's a giant bird named the Shubal Stork, and it sounds like a machine gun. I wanted to make a Pokemon based on the Shubal Stork and machine guns. It was kind of confusing when I started on how I would implement it, but then I looked up references for machine guns and it all just made sense. The Pokemon legs would act like the machine gun stand and would have a bullet belt on its back, and I drew it in a pose that resembled a propped up machine gun. So here's the final piece. Also, by the way, this Pokemon has my most favorite name so far, which my friend came up with, by the way. Thanks, Hasbin. Stork. They are extremely rare Pokemon that have been used in warfare for ages, since they have machine gun-like abilities to shoot projectiles at extremely high speeds from their mouths. What do you think? So those were the Pokemon I was working on for probably the last month or so. Would you have any of them on your team? whoever you choose, do let me know in the comments below. You might have noticed that the Pokédex entries were significantly shorter, and that's because I saw that most official Pokédex entries actually were, and I was trying to get a similar template. Do let me know what you think of the new format. For now, we have a total of 33 Pokemon in the region. I want to go for at least 150 to wrap up the project, and probably start another at some point, but of course it could be more than that. It's been a while since I have completed a long-term project, and I want to try and do it for this region. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.